All right, so I just started recording. So, hello. This is shower thoughts with an this is shower thoughts with an asexual. Um, we're not sober today, so this is gonna be fun. My guest today is Orlando, also known as Plaid Bear. Say hi.
Hello. Hi, it is me.
Unfortunately, he does not have a mic, or my dumbass. He doesn't have what is it called? A camera. He doesn't have a camera.
Too much moving around, too much to set up. So I was like, you know what? I haven't done anything in a while. Let's not set it
You're
up.
just like a lazy piece of shit, dude. Come on.
Correct.
Anyway,
Absolutely
so
correct.
what we're going to be talking to Orlando about is his runs at Georgia. What was it? The Georgia House of Representatives in the 13th district, and the Texas Senate run. That there's an interesting story behind that. So, what we're going to talk about with Orlando is his Georgia run in the House of Representatives in the 13th district and his Texas run in the Senate in the 7th district. But first, we're going to introduce him, obviously, to the audience. So, Orlando, what is your political affiliation and like how did you get there, I guess?
Um, as a kid, I never really, well, not, I won't say as a kid, but as a young adult, I was never really politically aligned with anything. But I definitely knew that I didn't like Republicans. uh, like most people, I really didn't get into it until Bernie ran because he spoke to me on a personal level because I was coming of age and a lot of the things he was talking about were a lot of the problems I was facing.
Mm,
So ultimately, around the Sanders run is when I got into it, started doing my research and whatnot. At one point, I called myself a socialist, leftist, all that, but I don't know. Nowadays, it's frustrating because just doesn't feel like socialists want to win. So I don't know. I guess you could call me a rationalist at this point. If it's true, I'll go with it, and if it's not, I won't.
that's that's like honestly the truest answer that I've ever heard. We're gonna move past that just like a little bit, just because like we can talk about that later.
Okay.
So I guess how do I know you is kind of like the thing that we do around here, even though this is the second episode, whatever. So I met him. His handle on TikTok is another TikTok guy. Is Plaid Bear. He was just bullying people super hard. And I
I won't
followed
even
him because
deny
I
it.
do exactly fucking that. I don't know. Like how did you end up following me, Plaid?
Uh, I think you had followed me. I went and saw some of your content, and I was like, I fucks with this, and I followed you back because I was like, yep, I fucks with this.
Because okay, let's just talk about TikTok for a hot second. Like, what has been your experience with it?
Um, well, I got on. I don't care what anyone says. TikTok is the closest thing we have to Vine, and I miss Vine. I don't care what anybody says. It's just a Vine supplement for me because my whole For You page is either politics that I'm interested in
Mm,
or top shelf memes. That's what I wanted. So I got into it for that,
that's a
and then I
move.
think I started out making just goofy memes, and then I started to see people like, and then the politics started, and I
The
never I didn't
politics started.
I didn't politics. It started with a couple of instances of me being like, "Hey, man, I don't know if you knew this or not, but most of what you just said was factually incorrect." And then one thing led to another, and it just kind of got out of hand from there.
That again, one of those things where real life meets the echo chamber that social media tends to build. But okay, honestly, we're not going to talk about TikTok too much. I'm trying to make an effort to get away from that. That's why I kind of started this podcast. But we're going to talk about first your Georgia run in the House of Representatives. Can we just get like a story time as to your this was you said this was your first time running, correct?
Right.
Like what inspired you, I guess, to actually run? Because like I have political aspirations myself, but I have a different, more long-term plan that I'll get into at a later date. But like
Spite predominantly.
spite.
I was at a point where it seemed as though no one else had any actual intentions of doing anything worthwhile,
Mm-hmm.
and my mindset was, if they won't do it, then I will. Uh, I don't know what spurned it, but I think I got into more than one argument living in Georgia with conservatives where they would just say things that were wrong and very damaging to Georgia's economy. It was very, very frustrating because I was like, I am trying desperately to get ahead and I can't because it seems like everybody wants to hold me and anybody in my position back.
Mm-hmm.
So decided, you know what, I'm gonna run and I'm gonna be an independent. I don't need no party. No party's gonna hold me down. Well, that was a mistake because that septuples your workload. You pretty much have to do all your paperwork, all your platforms, all your campaigning, pretty much all of that you have to do by yourself. And when you don't know how to code a website or fill out that paperwork for the very first time because you don't have anybody to show you and stuff like that, it gets very daunting very quickly. The only thing that stopped me in Georgia was that I ended up losing my job because the company I was working for was restructuring. Me and every other person in my department was like, hey, you took away our promotion like ladder. So now instead of making more money and becoming specialized, you just add to the workload and we make the same amount of money. And they were like, yeah. And we were like, that sucks. And they were like, but wait, there's more. And we were like, no, stop. And then they went on
capitalism, dude.
And they went on to be like, you guys know how you got that linked to inflation raise plus an additional % raise every year? And we were like, yeah. And they go, okay, fuck that. Now, they're like, fuck that. Now we're going to rank you guys based on your performance metrics. And you get a bonus based on where you rank. And we were like, that doesn't make sense because the metrics by which you measure our job performance are like razor thin. So you can't rank us because there's only a variance of like 0.1. So what does that mean? They were like, but hear me out. The like big department head was like, but hear me out. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. You could get a $400 bonus. He was like, you could get a $300 bonus every quarter. Like, do the math on this, guys. Like, and I was like, Ron, that's $1,200. That's not even hard fucking math. What are you talking about? It's like, you act like this is 15 grand you're handing me. I was like, dude, it's $1,200. That's
a check and a half.
Yeah, no, at the time that was like a third of a check. I was like, that's what? That's not a bonus. So they started getting rid of people left and right, and I was one of them because I was like, no, I'm not really happy with this new thing.
Doing all that work just for the same amount of pay. I get you.
Yeah, I was like, no, if you're going to add extra work, I expect extra compensation. They were like, well, you
can expect it, but are you going to get it? I don't know.
They hit me with that open door policy where the door's open to walk in and talk to your manager and then walk right back out on the street. I was like, yeah, right. So lost that and ended up moving to Texas.
We're going to get into your moving story in a minute, but I did want to focus on the Georgia run just a little bit more. So when it comes to the policies, what policies were you planning on running on?
So at the time, I didn't have like a policy. I didn't have very broad policies anyway. I had more of like an overreaching plan intended for the state of Georgia to make up for some of her economic failings over the past few decades. One of the first orders of business would have been it was a 4-year prospect plan. So each year you make the change. So the first year you decriminalize and legalize marijuana in the state. The entire purpose was to follow suit with Colorado and get that extra surplus income from the tax revenue of the marijuana crop. And Georgia just has a bunch of land and weed grows like a weed. So there's just a ton of land that you could have grown on. I was like, this could make Georgia the California of the East Coast by itself. We're not even talking about the next steps. And I would explain that to people and they'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't like pot. Pot's bad. And I'm like, stop. I'm like, please, just listen. So you tax the marijuana. The next year, you use the tax revenue to bolster Georgia's infrastructure because Georgia's infrastructure sucked balls. Yeah. It was horrible. Much better than Texas, but still very bad. My primary focus was actually a public transit system. because I
Okay.
wanted to use the money to expand MARTA and then eventually upgrade MARTA to be more
What's
of like a.
MARTA?
So MARTA, it's an acronym. I don't remember what it's for, but it's basically like the LA subway system above ground. It's just a little like train system that
Oh, a
runs
rail
around
system.
Atlanta and
Okay.
the area surrounding area. Um, Funny story about MARTA. One of the counties
Mm.
around where I grew up, Gwinnett County, would always hold a vote every year about whether or not they should expand MARTA all the way to there from Atlanta, which plays into my policy position. But everyone in Gwinnett County would say, yes, we want this. We can't wait to get this. Like, we really need this. And they'd hold the vote and say no. And then be like, damn it, why didn't we get it?
Oh
Every
my
year I was like, what do
God, what?
you mean? You said yes, and then you voted no. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, so what do you mean? But that would have been my focus, would bolster the infrastructure, fix the roads, improve the roads, build, repair the buildings, build public transit, effective public transit, because the problem that there is in Georgia is the areas that are affordable to live have no jobs, and the areas that have jobs are not affordable to live. So if you can live somewhere that's affordable and hop on a public train and go to the place that has the jobs for less than the cost of a car, which you wouldn't be able to afford in the low income area, you can now bring that economic benefit back to your area. You can potentially do better in the long term. Obviously, that's an idyllic approach, but for the most part, I think people kind of figure the shit out. I have faith in people to figure their shit out.
See, I think that like that's giving people too much credit because like if we look at what happened to the state that you now live in,
Well,
people can't govern properly when it comes to basic, common sense.
Well, no, of course not. And that was my thing. That's why I wanted to avoid the parties in general and focus exclusively on the facts and the numbers and what was going to work for the state. I had three ring binder after three ring binder of like data and research and numbers and statistics just to be like, look, this is going to help the state. I can guarantee it. And if you doubt it, I've got the evidence right here. And for the most part, that worked. The problem that I ran into, like I said, was losing my job and having to move out here. But
Mm-hmm.
so you have the first year of legalizing marijuana, you have the second year of improving the infrastructure, and the third year, you offer tuition-free education, post-secondary tuition-free. So first 2 years of college in a state school specifically, it's not private schools, but like in a state school, free to any Georgia resident. So now you've got huge economic boom from the marijuana industry, you get a huge economic boom from the infrastructure industry, and then you have the huge economic shift from areas of high economic wealth to areas that need economic wealth from the infrastructure upgrade. So now your economy is doing well enough that you can afford to make public education tuition free. At the same time that you're doing that, you would release any nonviolent drug offenders in the Georgia penitentiary system.
So you would start like when it comes to like the decriminalization, you would start also expunging the records of criminals.
Right, because there's no sense in it. Because now you've got a bolster to, because you got to think with the public education system being made free, you have people that are at these jobs that can't break into new jobs, breaking into these jobs. So you're going to need more people to fill the entry level positions.
Yeah.
Who better to fill an entry level position than somebody who you threw in jail for the majority of their life, who's probably not going to have any skills and needs somewhere to start.
Mm-hmm.
So now you don't even have to worry about filling in those positions because they'll get filled in naturally because now they're not felons. So they can get those jobs and build themselves up from there and eventually use that public education system and the public transit system to better themselves and the state by proxy.
So, okay. What prompted your move? Was it the loss of the job that prompted your move out to Texas?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I figured, but I'm like, let me just see if there's like a story behind that or not.
No, we were sitting on our savings. And after we ran out of savings, we had a moment where we looked at each other and we were like, well, what do we do?
Girlfriend?
Yeah.
Got you.
So we were just asking family, like, hey, well, we weren't asking like, hey, can we come live with you? The questions we were asking were like, hey, what do you do in this situation? Like, what do we do? What do we do? We don't know where to
We're
go.
about to lose our house and we have $0 in the bank.
Oh no,
What
like
do you suggest?
we had already lost everything. I had bounced between house and house. We had spent a couple days homeless. We were living somewhere that we had to move out of very quickly. So we were like, yeah, we're out of options. What do we do? So her family said, hey, you just move out here and stay with us until you get back on your feet. That was a mistake. But that's also how I ended up in Texas.
That's okay. I'm gonna move past it. I'm just gonna move past it. Okay. Now that you're in Texas, you recently, I think it was last year, actually decided to run for the Senate seat in District 7, correct? Or was it?
Correct. I believe it was District 7, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because I saw you actually advertise that on TikTok ever so slightly for a little bit. And then I saw that. Okay, so before we get into that part, let's go into the mindset going into Texas when you wanted to run there. Like, what was your mindset there?
So that had less to do with actually holding an office position and more to do with sending a message, because I was more focused on starting a political party and less focused on running for office. The running for office was just putting my money where my mouth was. I wasn't going to like start a party and then do nothing with it. So I figured if I could get a foothold in Texas for something that's basically the Socialist Party, then it would spread like wildfire anywhere in the United States.
Yeah, if you could.
Well, here's the thing.
Wait.
You can. You just can't use the word socialist, liberal, left, free. Like, you have to be very, very, very specific with your language, and people out here will agree with you. But the instant they get a whiff of communism, they lock up and they won't listen to another word you say.
A whiff? Okay, what's a whiff of communism? I guess like
if you
like
make
a whisper of desire or something.
If you even enunciate like the first syllable of the word universal, they'll stop talking to you.
Oh my God.
You have to be very, very careful. So like when I talk about the minimum wage out here to people, I don't mention the minimum wage. That's not the topic I'm focused on, because if you say like, yeah, we need to raise the minimum wage, they think, oh, so you want to fuck over the businesses, because that's all they give a shit about is the businesses. But you know what they care about more than the businesses? Being an American. So if you can spin it to be American centric, they'll follow you to the end of the goddamn earth. So I no longer bring up, this is how much the minimum wage should be. I say, what? You think Americans are only worth $7.25 an hour? Get fucked. If you're going to hire one of my citizens, you're going to pony up the cash. Americans deserve way more than that. You're not going to have one of my people being a wage slave. And doesn't matter how far right they are. They hear that and they're like, hell yeah, brother. You want to hire an American? You do it the right way. And I'm like, yeah. And then we bring back the unions, and then we kill the rich. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and then we only have one bathroom and we chop all our dicks off. And they're like, yeah. Like, if you can get them going, they'll just go with anything. But the moment I'm like, and then we have universal health care, they're like, you know what? You sound like a fucking commie. Doesn't matter what you say as long as you avoid certain words, but I swear it works.
Okay, so the scene that's popping into my mind is what's that scene from South Park? Just the voice that you were doing just kept reminding me of that scene from South Park. They took our jobs.
They took our jobs. They took our jobs. They took our jobs.
Exactly, dude. That's exactly what the fuck. Like that's
pretty much what it is. That is. I wish that were true satire, but it's not. That's just how it is.
I've lived in Texas for I think maybe like 6 or 7 months. It was very much stereotypical. I lived in Dallas at the time. It wasn't for like a long time, but like the kids there were very Texas. I'll put it that way.
You know the best part about that? Dallas is like Texas light.
Oh
And not like Light. I'm talking Lite, Texas Light. Like it's not even real. The Texans out where I live make fun of the Texans in Dallas.
Oh God.
It's so, but that's why when I hear people get mad at what's his name? DeMarcus? No, Marcus, the news guy.
Oh yeah.
About the Texans voting for thing, and they're like, yeah, because they voted for it, they deserved it. And I'm like, dude, the people out here are proud of themselves for putting themselves in the situation. I hear people out here being like, yeah, well, it's better than, giving into Bill Gates and the lizard conspiracy. I don't want to have to deal with that. I'd rather just freeze to death. Like, I wish to God I didn't repeat that verbatim from one of my customers. Like, what he said is true. The majority of Texans are proud of themselves. Which is why whenever I see people be like, you need to apologize, I'm like, you guys need to get over it. Not only would you not accept the apology, nothing he said was wrong. Blue Texans are a very recent thing.
Yeah. Yeah. They really are. I can see that because like I have been talking to a few people just about like in depth what's been going on in Texas and like the political scape now that Texas has seen like what Trump is. A lot of people I like you basically what you said was right. Blue Texans are like a very new thing, and I think that comes just with like generational change, I guess, and like the passage of time.
It's generational change, and it's also industries moving around to pay the bare minimum necessary tax. A few businesses moved out of California to Texas to avoid paying any taxes on basically anything they did, and that brought with them a lot of blue people because those are the people that fill those types of jobs. Okay, the people that I work with, because I do a customer facing position. Okay, they don't know how to work a flip phone. There's no fucking way they're going to be able to code for an engineering company. It's just not happening. So, like, those people were brought here from more blue states.
But wait. They took their jobs.
Yeah, they took their jobs. I don't know how a computer works, but if I did, they took my job. That would have been my job if I had learned how to work a computer.
Oh my God. Okay. So, what were your policies going into that Senate run? Like, what were you thinking about going, or what were you thinking about running on? Excuse me.
For me in Texas, it was still the decriminalization of marijuana, but it shifted very rapidly after that. Because first of all, Texans, if there's any two things Texans love, it's country music and pot. Don't let a single Texan lie to you. They love their weed out here. Yeah. They want it more than anything in the world. But the GOP tells them not to, so they just pretend that they aren't. So it was still to legalize marijuana in 1 year because people out here are ready. People out here are growing industrially, and people know about it, but they're not going to do anything because it's just not worth it. So just let them do it legally, tax it, follow the same system. But on the back end, instead of doing the infrastructure overhaul, I'd actually want to start breaking down the private prison contracts because that does a lot of damage to Texas as a whole.
Elaborate on that a little bit more.
So when an area has a private prison, any state that has privately run prisons, or at least more liberated privately run prisons, so privately run prisons that do more of what they want, you'll find a disproportionately high level of incarceration in response to a crime. So like a gram of weed when it wasn't legal in California might net you like 2 years in prison, but in Texas it's like 5. And that comes from these contracts that they strike with these private prisons where they have to maintain a certain population. So it's just, it makes it so that the little insignificant quote unquote crimes can net you obscene punishments because they have to maintain their contracts.
That's kind of like the capitalist extension of the 13th Amendment almost.
Well, it is. That's
That's
all it
that's
is.
literally how I'm thinking about it, dude.
No, yeah, because in Texas, the prisoners can be used as slave labor. That's exactly what it is. So it's just one of those things where to fix Texas in the second year, I'd have to break down the private prison industry, and I'd have to
How
figure out how to do it now.
sorry, my computer just messed up.
You good?
It's fine. How well do you think that would have went over?
I think most Texans just don't actually know about it. I think they don't realize how rigged the prison system is against them. And usually, when you talk to them about it, most of them end up pretty surprised and appalled. Actually, you'd be amazed how many of them out here actually hate Ted Cruz and Governor Abbott.
Oh, like the amount of Texans that I've talked to, Republican and Democrat, over the last like what 2 years, 3 years, they flat out said they don't know who the fuck Ted Cruz is, or they just lament the fuck out of him. Because like when he was first running for president, I found out that he was Canadian born. I'm like, how is this Canadian running for the president of the United States? Didn't we just give this black man hell for 8 years for maybe not possibly being born in the United States, even though he definitely was?
And
Like,
even if he hadn't been, he'd have still been a U.S. citizen if his parents were U.S. citizens, which they fucking were.
both of them were exactly. But no, okay. So breaking down the breaking down the private prisons was going to be year number 2 or year number 1.
Number 2 after the decriminalization and legalization of marijuana,
Okay.
because that finding a way to get that passed would handicap the private prison industry, because now most of their revenue
Petty crimes couldn't be charged. Yeah, I get you.
yeah. So now you're kneecapping their ability to fight you legally and financially.
Okay. So what will be your number 3?
Fix these schools. Holy shit, these schools out here are awful. I don't know what an independent school district is, but like there's no reason two schools that are so close together should have such drastically different success rates. Like I live right next to a high school. These kids are fucking hopeless. There's no hope for them.
Now, what's the demographic of the area, out of curiosity?
I'd say like 60% white, 30% Hispanic, 9% black, and then 1% other.
Okay. Pretty poor. Excuse me, I'm tired. A pretty poor area overall, though.
Yeah, they don't realize they are, but yeah,
They don't realize they are.
they think to themselves that every hardship is validation of their lifestyle, and I'm like, no, you're just so dumb you don't realize how miserable you are.
Honestly, I feel like that's just like the brain dead John Wayne mindset
They're
that
like, life's
most
not
Republicans
living
and quote-unquote
unless it's
patriots
hard.
have. Exactly. That they have just adopted and has been just forced down their throat. Because it's like, I'm all for hard work. Don't get me wrong. When I need to work hard, I will work hard. But I'm really not about to say anything about it, because like, look, give me the easy way. Look, let me walk to the side.
Yeah, no, there's a big difference between working hard at something you want and just having life force you to work way harder
Then you
than
need
you
to.
otherwise would.
Exactly. And
And a
did
lot
you
of
run into any like specific political opponents that you think you might have had?
no, my so here's a fun fact. The guy that I was running to replace had died, and that's how I found out about the opening, and that's when I went to submit my race. And here's again, this is where it gets confusing. So I start filling out the paperwork and
Yeah. Okay, so there's the story. There's the fun fact.
So I ended up actually dropping out of that race, which I couldn't even drop into, because I got about halfway through this fuck ton of paperwork, and then it's like, yeah, so turn in this form that you should have filled out last year if you were going to run this year. And I was like, wait, why?
I didn't know he was gonna die a year in advance.
I didn't know he was going to die a
paperwork.
year in advance, and even if I did, why the fuck would I think that that was the time to fill out paperwork? So I was like, well, shit, I can't fill out this form now. It's past the deadline to turn it in. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, how, why are you mentioning this now? So Yeah, I dropped out of that one, but that was a mistake on my part for not knowing a year in advance, I guess. I had a couple of Republicans be like, haha, if you had known that, you would have filled out the paperwork. And I was like, dude, I decided to run after the deadline to turn in that paperwork. What the fuck? I would have never known.
So, do
And,
you plan on running in the future?
oh, hell no.
Why not?
It's just not worth my time. It's just not. I would rather commentate than participate because the I shouldn't have to dispute things that we watched happen. So if me and a conservative in this area both watch a blue car drive by, and I say a blue car just drove by,
Mm-hmm.
because the idea didn't form in his fucking head, he's gonna argue with me, and he's gonna be like, "That wasn't a blue car. That was a white truck." And I would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You were standing right next to me."
We
And
need more people like you, though, dude. We need it.
but I can't. That's the thing, is I can't get enough support out here for that
Very
sort of
true.
thing. So, but I also intend on moving to Washington. So,
Oh, and when do you plan on moving there?
uh, first chance I get life changes coming at me pretty hard and heavy. So we're gonna wait till that passes, and then we're gonna skedaddle on to a little bit better state.
I get you. That's actually smart. So, okay, we're gonna move into the next section. Excuse me, the next section of the podcast, and it's finally starting to hit. So, if I get stupid, I'm sorry. Anyway,
I've been doing this whole thing with my eyes closed because that's the only way I can talk. I can't talk with my eyes open. Blinking and talking are just not working for me.
well, we can look, but Black Lives Matter, right?
But Black Lives Matter.
But Black Lives Matter, right? Anyway, sorry. Okay, so I think I already asked you this, but what drew like your inspiration to politics? What was your inspiration for politics? I think
Definitely Bernie Sanders, because he showed me that there can be integrity in administration. Growing up, I always had a really bad relationship with most authority figures because I would be led to a conclusion and then punished for that conclusion, and that was always very frustrating. So I would be
that's
put in a situation where there was no possible way I could succeed, and then I would be punished for it. So, for example, a teacher would give me a project which would require me to use a tool that as a child I was either physically incapable of or physically barred from using. So I would go to the teacher, be like, "Teacher, I've done everything else I need to do for this project. I need you to either grant me access to this tool or use this tool in the appropriate manner to finish the project." And consistently they would say, "No, you should have thought ahead. You are now being punished." And that tarnished any relationship I can have with authority because it happened so consistently that I convinced myself, okay, so yeah, like I can't trust anybody who has authority over me because they will use it to put me at a disadvantage. But Bernie Sanders showed me that there are people in administration who recognize that they're just people and they're just here to keep the system moving along and take care of the people who voted. Like they have the skills necessary to manage the voices on behalf of the voices. And that's where I was like, you know what, that we do need more people like that to speak truth to power, to bring, good energy to the administration. And that's what pushed me to be like, I can be like that.
Yeah. And why do you think running is important?
Uh, Mostly because I think people don't realize they can do it. The idea of government has become so alienated from the average American that they forget that they are the government, and it's just the method by which we, as a society, manage our relationship with entities that may or may not be a part of that society. For example, businesses. I think it's interesting that for how much the GOP hates unions, they're in what could be considered one of the biggest unions in the entire United States, possibly even the world, which is the US government. It's just how we collectively bargain with foreign entities. It's just a giant union. And people out here kind of don't understand that if they don't like something, they can change
it.
But when they see like just a normal guy that they know running for office, it brings it home for them, and they can better connect with that system and recognize that it's not something above them, but rather a tool for them to better themselves.
Okay. So, what are your plans for any future races? I guess I think we already covered that a little bit,
So
but I wanted you to go into more detail.
So interestingly enough, it turns out I'm actually having a kid. So
Oh, congrats, boy or
what
girl?
we don't know yet. We didn't know she could get pregnant because she had ovarian cancer. So this was an unexpected surprise, and it kind of threw a wrench into things. So
Oh,
I've put the prospect of running for office on the back burner while I get myself situated to put my kid in a position where they can develop comfortably, at least more comfortably than I did as a child,
well,
because I grew up in what could be considered abject poverty.
okay. I don't mean to like just sound dismissive of that. I just don't know how to respond.
Oh no, you're fine. I thought you were going to ask something. That's why I had stopped.
Well, I mean, I guess like, what do you mean abject poverty? Like, yeah, obviously you have to elaborate. I
It's,
didn't want to pry, you know.
no, you're good. It's like what you would imagine. House was always really messy because mom was always working, and we were always just trying to get by. Wasn't always food. Food would regularly go bad because we'd eat out, just because sometimes it was just easier. Piles of laundry, wouldn't always have hot water, wouldn't always have power. Usually something that needed to be repaired in the house. Just not not able to get by. And then when the 2008 housing crash happened, we actually ended up losing that house. We ended up being foreclosed on. So like, I definitely did not grow up in the most luxurious of situations. And while I don't want my kid to grow up totally cut off from society, I definitely want them to have to worry a lot less than I did as a child.
I completely respect that, and
Which,
you're breaking the boundaries.
and here's where it gets interesting, has
Mhm.
actually driven me even further left as I do research to find out where to raise my kid. Let me tell you, it's incredible how, if you comb through data to raise a family in this country, it's incredible how consistently the further left an area is, the better it is to raise a family.
It's almost like they care for the future of their generation.
Right. That's actually why I chose Washington State, because they have one of the highest minimum wages in the nation with the lowest average cost of living, because they have such a high minimum wage. Now in California, that's been fucked six different ways from Sunday because of the way urban development has happened and the businesses that are there. But in
Yeah.
Washington, they've had a bit more regulation. They've been a little stricter with the way businesses can expand to make it more of a symbiotic relationship with their citizens rather than a parasitic one. So I was like, wow, it's crazy how when you go really far left on certain things, it breeds more successful people.
Honestly, that makes like it makes sense, yeah, but it just puts like, okay, so this is basically what I'm thinking about when you're talking about how far left, like the further left you get, the better your life circumstances get. This brings me back to like just the talk about how academics is it always skews left, and it's like smart people tend to care more about the things that are around them, you know?
They're more capable. So here's how. Hold on, give me 1 second.
That's how I look at it, at least.
So here's a little bit of, and this is, I don't conspiracize often. When I do, it's usually like,
Conspiracize.
yeah. When I bring up conspiracies, I'm usually either being so hyperbolic that it's ridiculous, or it's super small and like totally possible. So I think one of the biggest forms of Republican propaganda that was like slipped in and fed to us as children.
Slipped in.
Yeah, like it's a really common thing that we see in media all the time. Oh fuck, it just slipped my mind. No, why would you do this to me, devil's lettuce? No. What were we talking about right before this?
We were talking about how education skews left.
Right. Okay. Uh so here's a little bit of Republican propaganda that's been slipped into all of our media, especially our education media.
All right.
When students talking about getting an easy grade or talk about a worthless class, what do they usually use as an example?
Art.
Music appreciation.
Okay, yeah.
The definition of music appreciation is being able to understand and interpret music. So, of course, conservatives would make anything that follows anything before appreciation seem like a stupid class, because it's like, yeah, I know how to listen to music. No, you don't.
It's about understanding what is trying to be expressed by the artist and being able to apply that to other forms of art. And Republicans would hate if we could do that in any context and not just the one.
So you're saying they lack critical thinking skills,
Exactly.
and
They don't know.
they actively have sought out to destroy people's ability to develop them.
Yes, they actively they hate education. They hate anything that gets people to look at something more critically, because the more critical you are of conservative viewpoints, the less they hold up. The more scrutiny you apply, the more they fall apart.
Oh my god. Like, okay, so I just want to bring it back to TikTok a little bit as to like why I stopped trying to bring more scrutiny, because like I would just get into random ass, like you have been getting into random ass arguments with blank profiles, and it's like, bruh, I couldn't do it, because once you say something that makes it so their entire argument is refuted and they can't say anything, they'll just stop talking or they'll block you.
Oh yeah. For me now, it's no longer about changing their mind. It's about so other people have the correct information. I don't really give a fuck if I change the other person's mind, but I need other people to recognize, like, if people are exposed correctly, they'll pick up on what is a good argument and what is a bad argument. So when I approach it in such a way that they can't maintain their argument and I force them to explain, people will recognize that their position doesn't work. I don't have to explain my position. Once I've made the statement, it just sits. It just makes sense. You don't need any additional information.
That makes sense. And I don't need any additional information.
It's a rhetorical thing. I think it comes, like I said, an anti-intelligentsia like movement in the United States has hamstrung our ability to approach government in a responsible way and politics in a responsible way, because people are no longer being taught philosophy. They're no longer being put in these courses that teach them human empathy. It's very
cut and dry,
bare minimum, because Republicans want it to be bare minimum.
Yeah, they really do.
Democrats don't care because they just send their kids to private school, so they don't even recognize that as an issue. And Republicans actively want Americans to be stupid.
Yeah. So just talking about like the national agenda, what would be your national agenda? Say you were president right now today. You would be President Orlando, United States. First 10 days, what are you doing?
That's a tough question to answer, because I don't have the information that a president would have. I don't have the briefings that a president would have. So there may be information that I'm simply not privy to as a normal citizen that the president is privy to. Now,
okay.
The thing that makes me doubt that heavily is the last 4 years. That's what I always thought going into it, but after the last 4 years, I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way that there's nothing behind the curtain. There's no smoking curtains.
No,
what we see is what it is.
The clapping, the symbol monkey, that's what it is behind the curtain. Literally.
That's all it is. Like, there is no big bad, there is no shadow government. There is no super bourgeois elite running the world through puppet lizard people. No, it's just a bunch of fucking idiots. Yeah, it's just a bunch of old fucking dumb white people who hate the idea that other people might one day have as much money as them, and they actively try to hold everyone down. And business leaders don't give a shit. They're just like, you know what? I can take
make my money right here.
Yeah, they're like, I can make my money here. Like, they're not actively trying to fuck people over. They're just trying to make as much money as they can. Just happens to be that fucking people over makes them a ton of money. So I'm like,
that's a mood.
There are no smoke and mirrors. So I'm like, part of me is like, first thing I want to do is downsize the military dramatically. But maybe there's something that says not to do that in the briefings that I would get as president. But Donald Trump was president for 4 years, so I have extreme doubts. Like, I know more than Donald Trump about most things.
Like, probably about how to run a business too, considering how many times has he filed for bankruptcy?
13, to my knowledge.
Jesus fuck. Almost as many rape allegations, or excuse me, sexual assault allegations.
I mean, we know what they were.
Exactly.
But that's, I don't know. I don't even know if I could do that. But I'm at this point, I know that we haven't made contact with extraterrestrial life in any conceivable way, because
President Twitter fingers would not be able to keep quiet about it. There's no fucking way they're aliens because he wouldn't shut up about it.
So if there were, I seriously doubt that he was even told. Because of that exact reason.
Everybody's in the room and they're like, "Are we gonna tell him?" But no.
Well, they just close the dossier and then move on to the.
But he's the president. You know what? And he's gonna be the one that doesn't know. What if the other ones talk about it with him? They won't. They won't. They know. They know. They get it. They're not gonna do that. Trump pops. He's like, "What are you guys talking about?" They're like, "Nothing. Nothing." Just
honestly. Okay, so here's my question. We all knew, just talking about Trump for a second, I just want to bring a little bit of talk to the impeachment trials. The second one, not the first one. What did you think? Not what did you think? What do you think is going to happen to the Republican Party after the fallout over this? Because we know this is far from over.
Well, Trump got invited to talk at CPAC, so probably nothing. The Republicans are doing an excellent job of not having to take responsibility for anything. People, again, because the education system in the United States is fumbling so heavily on everything, people don't understand what might be wrong with having your co-conspirators be your jurors. Or even understand that being acquitted doesn't mean you didn't do it. It just means that within the eyes of the law, you can't be charged. So, like, I don't think anything's going to change for Republicans. I think they're going to continue to get more and more batshit insane.
I personally think that they are going to splinter into the Trump party, and hopefully they stay splintered, because when I get into politics, if I get into politics anytime soon, I am going to be just that aggressive against Republicans. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I understand the whole unity, we got to work together, governance, America, rah rah. Fuck that. You know, I'm gonna be a governor for my people. If I get, like, I don't know if I'm gonna run for governor. I don't think I would want to run for governor of Michigan. Jesus. Oof.
I don't know. It's one of those things where you can have the best intentions, but people don't. It's hard for people to not let their emotions get the better of them, and in the South, especially, there's just no way to get people to recognize that, like, yeah, there's going to be some things you're uncomfortable with, but overall, it makes life better for you and everyone around you.
Now, what you got to do, you got to perform those verbal linguistics.
So, God, there's so much work.
Gymnastics, whatever.
Oh, here's a fun conspiracy theory I have for you on the subject of splintering parties. Like I said, the only reason I think that there's going to be no fallout from this for the Republicans at all is that Trump has been made largely irrelevant. It's very, very difficult for him to get into the public eye. We're no longer talking about Trump. We're talking about his impeachment trial, and we're talking about the lawsuits against him. Nobody's worried about him. They want to know how the cases are going because he no longer has a voice. All we can do is tangentially reference what's going on in regards to the event, which is a good thing for the most part because it keeps people focused on the facts and not, baby hands.
It really doesn't, though, because the leaders of the Republican Party are actively ignoring the facts, and Democrats are still trying to, like, play with them.
Oh, no. I don't even mean the impeachment trials. I mean, like, his New York trial.
Oh, the state trials. Okay.
Yeah, like all of his lawsuits, not just the one.
Oh, yeah. I haven't even been keeping up with those.
So it's one of those things where
I just want to get a blow by blow. To be
they're
perfectly
just not
honest, bullet point it for me.
They're not going to pay the price for his actions because he's been removed from the public eye. And here's a fun little conspiracy theory for you that I wholeheartedly believe in. The big tech companies knew full well how dangerous his actions were going to be, but they also recognized that it was no serious risk to them or their profits.
Oh, yeah.
It was only when he risked going to legitimate war, like destabilizing the system that they depend on for that, like, fiscal security, is when they finally took action and, like, cut him out of everything so he couldn't continue to do that. And the reason I know that for a fact that's the case is because the tax breaks that they got were finalized just a few weeks before they cut him off of everything.
Yep.
So I know for a fact they knew what was going to happen and they let it happen to get the tax breaks. They let the country fall to chaos to maintain their position, and the only reason they changed it wasn't even for the tax breaks, They got the tax raise, and it was now safe for them to cut him off if he destabilized their security. And he did. He destabilized their security, so they cut him off. I'm not usually a conspiracy theory guy, but I know for a fact that is how that went.
Well, yeah, because around that same time, wasn't there like a list of businesses that said they're not going to be supporting any fucking political movements regarding the Republicans if they continue to lie about the election?
Yeah,
there was
because
like a whole list of big businesses who said that too.
Because they were like, hey, you're kind of fucking with the dollar, which is what we use for our currency.
You're fucking with the money, bro.
You're fucking with the money, bro. We gave you money to leave our money alone, and now you're fucking with our money. At the end of the day, that's all it is. I don't care what anybody says. People can call it a conspiracy theory. I think it's a fact. I know for a fact that is what happened.
Oh, of course. Business always takes advantage of any top possible situation. But all right. So I feel like that was a good and long conversation. Again, Orlando, where can we find you? Like, where do you normally post if you do that?
Lately, I've been mostly on TikTok because I can't really find the time to set aside for more in-depth work that I want to do. So pretty much just Plaid Bear on TikTok. I mean, I also have an Instagram and Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is also Bear because my original Twitter handle got banned because I was bullying Ted Cruz too hard.
Wait. How are you bullying Ted Cruz, dude?
I think the tweet that got me banned, I had called him a stupid cuck ape before explaining to him like what was wrong with something he had said, and they were like, hey buddy, you can't do that.
Whoa there. Oh my god. What was the original handle, dude?
Plaid Bear was the original handle. So I got my original handle banned because I called Ted Cruz a stupid cuck ape. I think it was during like the insurrection because he was like, yeah, this is disgusting. And I was like, you stupid cuck ape, your bull did this. I don't even know why the fuck you're saying it's bad now. You saw this coming.
Oh,
and I got banned within minutes.
He looked at it, bro, and reported it.
Yeah, it's like
I swear he did. He had to.
I'm pretty sure that was my first tweet on my alternate account. I was like, Ted, I know you reported that tweet. I know you got me banned, you little bitch. I was like, that would hurt, didn't it?
Good Jesus.
It probably offended him because he saw ape, and knowing Ted Cruz, the first thing that came to his mind was black, and he started panicking. He was like, I'm not black. I'm not black.
All right, Orlando. It was great talking to you, dude.
You too, buddy.